Hello and welcome to Industry Insight Sessions from Changing Education. My name's Amos Madra and I'm a careers advisor for Changing Education. And in these Industry Insight Sessions, we get to speak to industry experts about their own career journey and get some tips and advice on how they can help you in your career journey. Well, joining me today is Duncan Geddes. Now, this is a really exciting career. He's done so much. Let me just read a little bit about Duncan, explain to you what he's done. Firstly, Duncan is the Managing Director for Technical Foam Services. Duncan has been in the foam industry since the age of 18. He worked for 2 other foam companies before buying Technical Foam Services around 15 years ago. The company now expects a turnover of 6.5 million and they employ 50 plus people. Duncan's expertise are in global foam and raw materials knowledge. That's where his area of expertise are. He is always thinking about how the company can maintain its key strengths while at the same time continually growing, thrive and prosper in the future. Duncan surrounds himself with great people, and that's part of his success. But don't allow me to tell you that. Duncan's here. So Duncan, a very warm welcome to you. Thank you very much for joining us here in this Industry Insight Sessions.
You've just given away my secret, mate.
Well, can you tell us a bit about yourself? Is there something I've missed out there?
No, not at all. That's a great intro. Thank you. Well, as you said, I'm a local lad. I was born and bred in Milton Keynes. At the age of 16, I left school. I had O levels. That was it. GCSEs nowadays. And I spent a couple of years working, in the local pub. I worked in the garden centre. I worked in the co-op. Loads of odd jobs. And then I realised when I got to about 18 that I needed to get a proper job. And I applied for a job for at a foam company. Foam as in, let's be clear, foam as in the soft stuff. Like cushions, sponges, that kind of thing, not mobile phones, foam. Okay. So I applied for this job, and it was the only reason I applied is because it was described as management trainee, and I thought that sounds quite good. That I'm up for a bit of management trainee, so I applied for the job. I then actually went straight away on holiday for a couple of weeks, camping with some friends. When I came back, there was a letter in the post saying come for an interview, but I've missed the interview date. So I rang up and said, sorry, I've been away. Can I still come for the interview? And they said, yeah. So I went in on the Thursday, met the sales director for an interview. He said, yeah, you seem like a good lad. Can you come back tomorrow and meet the managing director? So I did. I went back in on the Friday. He said, yeah, you seem like a nice lad. He said, do you want the job? I said, yeah, marvellous. He said, you can start on Monday. And I thought, great, this is good.
Wow.
So at the age of 18, I got into the foam industry, and for basically 6 months, I worked on the factory floor. They gave me a brush, told me to clean up, and basically it was an apprenticeship, a real thrown in at the deep end. I was the lad that was told to sweep up the car park when it was raining outside. I was the guy that had to run around everybody else and pick up all the scraps of foam. But it was a brilliant introduction to a proper working life. But I'd actually been there for about a month, and I was getting to know people. And some of the guys said, well, do you know how you actually got this job, Duncan? I said, I just applied and I came for the interview and I got the job. And they said, no, the only reason you got the job, Duncan, is because they'd offered the job to somebody else.
Right.
And while I was away on holiday. And I said, well, what happened? They said, well, apparently when they offered the job to this other lad, they told him that he would have to spend 6 months out in the factory just doing all the odd jobs. And this lad had a degree, whereas I didn't. I just had a few O levels. This lad had a degree, and he said, no. He said, I'm not spending 6 months in the factory. I'm too bright for that. So he turned the job down. And in their wisdom, they'd actually then sent rejection letters out to all the other people they'd interviewed. So by the time I came along, they either gave me the job or they had to re-advertise it. So they obviously thought, well, might as well just give Duncan the job and see how he gets on.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So the moral of the story is just go for the job. Okay. And if you get it, it's because you're meant to get it. So I spent about 6 or 7 years at that company. I found after about the first year, working in all the different departments. I worked in the factory, and then I worked in the sales office, and then in the production office, and then a bit in accounts, and doing a little bit everywhere. My affinity, my love was always sales, so talking to customers and so forth. So I spent about 5 years in the sales department, and the company grew, grew and grew. And about 5-6 years down the line, I was approached by the owners of another foam company in Wellingborough, a company called Foam Techniques. And the two guys that owned that company, they were very well known in the industry. And Foam Techniques was basically the next big thing in the foam world. And they offered me a job as general manager, which was a real, a real sort of exciting stage for me. And they interviewed me around the golf course as well, which was good fun. As a golfer, I enjoyed that. So as soon as they offered me a game of golf, I was hooked. So I joined Foam Techniques, and I spent about 11 years there, some 11 or 12 years there as general manager. And I learned a huge amount from the two guys that ran the business. And one of their secrets, and you alluded to it in your introduction, was surround yourself with good people. And that's exactly what they did. They built a really good team, good people. So they had the best accountant, the best solicitor, all the best advisors. Yeah, they had the best production guy, the best sales guy. All the best people surrounded them. And then they supported and motivated that team. So I worked there for about 11 or 12 years. And then the opportunity came up to buy Technical Foam Services, which was about 14, 15 years ago. And for me, that was always my dream. I always wanted, even from an early age, I always wanted to run my own business. And the guys that own Technical Foam Services, they wanted to retire. Luckily, they didn't want a lot of money for the business. So I bought it along with another guy, a friend of mine. He has since retired, so I bought him out about 5 years ago. So here we are, 30 years later. I've got my own foam company.
Wow. On those first early days when you were cleaning up the car park on a cold, wet morning, did you ever envisage yourself in this position? Did you ever think?
I did.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, Amos, I did. Right from the early stage, I realised that as much as I enjoyed, I've never had a problem working for other people, funnily enough. I've always, I recognise the fact that, we all need a boss in our own way. So I never had a problem working for other people, but I always thought, I want to have a bash at doing this myself. I really, really do. So yeah, even from an early age, I always had that dream. And in fact, actually, when it finally came true and I bought Technical Foam Services, say 14, 15 years ago, quite a number of people that I had worked with 30 years ago when I first started all said, Duncan, we always knew you would do it. One day, we always knew you would have your own foam company.
And where did the motivation for that come from? Was it something that was always there, or was it once you started working?
I think I enjoy the basics of business, because when you strip it right back to the very basics, business is fairly straightforward. You need customers, you need suppliers, you need honesty and credibility. And it's all about buying something, hopefully putting on some margin, some value, and then selling it. And from a very early age, I mean, I talked about when I was sort of 16 to 18, I worked in sort of the pub and the garden centre. I mean, I'd always been doing sort of part-time jobs. Probably from the age of sort of 13 or 14, I used to do a couple of paper rounds in the evening. And, I remember selling Christmas trees, ironically. I remember selling Christmas trees when I was about 15. I remember, watering plants in the garden centre, because in those days, they basically just gave you a hose pipe and said, right, go and water that lot. There was none of these automatic sort of irrigation systems or anything like that. So I always had that little bit of drive to actually, get out there and work. And actually, this is also a little story, but it's true. When I was 17, there was a thing called YTS, Youth Training Scheme. Don't know if you're probably too young for that.
I remember.
Do you?
I remember hearing about it. The YTS. I do remember hearing about it.
YTS was a government funded scheme, again, sort of like apprenticeships for 16, 17-year-olds. And you got paid £27.30 a week. And I joined the YTS scheme and I got a job at the co-op, just in the co-op in Milton Keynes. It's not there any longer. And I'd worked there for 6 weeks, 7 weeks, something like that. And the £27.30 every week was being paid into an Abbey National bank account. And after about 6 or 7 weeks, the people that ran the scheme rang me up and said, Duncan, it's a bit embarrassing, but you do know you're being paid to work, don't you? And I said, what? I know. And I said, why are you asking? And they said, because we've been told by Abbey National that you haven't touched your bank account. The £27.30 has been going in every week. We can't, why haven't you spent any of the money? And I said, well, because I'm still working at the pub in the evening. I'm still working at the garden centre at the weekend. And to be honest with you guys, I can earn far more money in my part-time jobs than I can doing the YTS during the week. And they said, well, why are you doing the YTS? I said, because I want the work experience. I actually want to get out there and work full-time in a proper company. Whereas obviously my part-time jobs were all quite sort of social jobs. So even at the age of sort of 16 or 17, I always wanted to, earn a living.
That's fantastic work ethic. I think you've already started touching on to the next question that I wanted to ask you. But from that early age, from the paper rounds to when you finished school to the YTS, and then also having these other jobs at the same time, that clearly shows that, you were very hardworking and self-motivated. You didn't need anybody to inspire you. And we didn't have things such as social media where you could draw inspiration from. So, where did that motivation come from? And that drive?
I think if you look back, I mean, my father, he worked hard all his career. My mum was always working various jobs over the years. So I think maybe it's a bit of the family thing. But I think most importantly, and this sort of like view is still with me today, I always enjoyed it. When I look back, I've never really had a job that I didn't enjoy. I genuinely didn't enjoy. And I think that's vital. And as I said to you earlier, Amos, I've got 4 kids, and they're sort of between the ages of sort of 17 and early 20s, so they're not kids any longer. But I say exactly the same thing to them, that whatever they do for their career, number one, well, 2 things. Number one, it's got to be legal, quite important. But number 2, they've got to enjoy it, because if you enjoy it, you're more likely to you'll carry on doing it. If you don't enjoy it, look for something that you do enjoy. And that's really important, that you've got to enjoy what you do. So as a result, I think probably my work ethic is actually driven by the fact that I've enjoyed what I've done. I don't necessarily view it as work. I think something that sort of supports that is when I bought Technical Foam. A lot of people do say, oh, you're your own boss, you can come and go as you please and have as much holiday as you like and all that kind of thing. No, it's not. It's absolute rubbish. You probably end up working even harder as when it's your own business. So I've taken less holiday in the last few years than I did when I was, an employee all those years ago.
And you're responsible for all those employees as well, aren't you? So
exactly.
You're the one that gets the sleepless nights, I suppose.
And they're the ones that I care about. I've got my family at home and I've got the family here at work as well, and it's my responsibility to look after them all.
Yeah. Would you say hard work pays off?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And I am a big supporter of, when kids nowadays leave school, leave college, leave university, whatever it may be, get a job, whatever it may be, doesn't matter what it is, within reason. Enjoy it, as long as you enjoy it. Obviously, that's the important thing. But get into the habit of working. Get into that routine of getting up in the morning, going to work, spending time with other people, being part of a team. When you're young, you're going to get told what to do. Get on with it and do it, But get into that routine of being part of a team and spending, 40 hours a week or as many hours it is, spending that time working. But don't look upon it as work as being a bad thing. Look upon it as this is what you'll do, because this is how you're going to spend the next probably 40, 50 years of your life. Get used to it quickly. So the quicker you get into that routine as a youngster, the better. And yeah, as I say, it doesn't matter really what you do in the early stages. You can, one of my lads has delivered pizzas for Domino's. Fine, great, no problem at all. It's got him into the routine of getting out there, working every evening and all that kind of thing. No problem at all.
That's
So
it. Yeah, very
really,
important.
really important. Really important that.
Don't dip your toe in, jump all the way in, and
Do it.
embrace
Do it.
the whole work. Yeah, there you go. You've heard it. Do it. What's
Yeah.
your day-to-day work like? At what time do you get up, and what do you get
Okay.
up to throughout your day?
Okay, well, I live in Northampton and the factory's in Corby. So it's about a 45-minute drive, something like that. So I get up at 6 o'clock. I leave the house at 6:30. I'm at work by about 7:15. The factory is open from 6 in the morning. We have 2 shifts. So the first shift do 6 till 3, 6 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon. The second shift do 3 in the afternoon till midnight. So I normally turn up here at about 7:15. First things first, cup of coffee, obviously.
Yep, that's good. Yeah, has to be done.
Yeah. Turn the heating up, especially this time of year. And I generally finish work at kind of between 5, 6 o'clock in the evening, something like that. So I'm home by 6:30, that sort of time. As the years have progressed, I actually try and work one day a week from home, often on a Friday. And everybody says, "Oh, it's all right working from home on a Fridays." Well, there's 2 reasons for that. Number one, true, I do get a little bit more peace and quiet when I'm working from home. So that's an advantage. It gives me time to do some of the things that I maybe can't do from Monday to Thursday. But the other advantage is that we as a company have grown to about 50 people, and I've got a good management team here, and I've also got a good group of people working in the company. I trust them totally, 100%. And it's important that I give those people room to breathe and to grow and develop. They don't want me hanging around every bloody day. It drives them mad, because I am quite, during the day, I'm quite involved in the business. We are a factory. We employ, out of the 50 people, about 38 of those work in the factory. So I often just spend time walking around the factory, looking at what's going on, talking to people, and it's amazing. It's so important that keeps me involved. I know exactly what's going on, but what's important is that I do trust the people here to make the decisions. So I will never, my working day is obviously quite busy, but I will never criticize anybody who's made a decision and said, "I think this is the right thing to do, let's do it." So I'm very supportive like that.
So there's some key things really to take from there. I mean, first of all, relationships, building relationships with people, trusting
Yeah.
people, delegating tasks to people, and
Yeah.
being there to listen to people's concerns and
Yeah.
knowing what's going on, keeping your ears to the ground,
Yeah.
and knowing what your staff are thinking is so important.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
for anybody
Very
watching
true.
this who wants to run a business, you've heard that, having those relationships are really important, and trusting your staff and being able to delegate to them.
It's so important because businesses are all about people. They're a group of people, and if you can build a good group of people, it actually makes being the manager of those people so much easier because you can trust them, you can rely upon them, and it makes my job so much easier.
So would you say it's more about the development of people rather than the direction of people?
Well, I think it's probably a bit of both, actually.
Yeah.
I think you never stop learning. So people continually develop. I mean, we're sitting here now, it's December, and I'm now looking back upon what's happened this year, and I'm trying to make plans for next year. And we've grown as a company during the last 12 months. So the business has got bigger. But when I also look at it, some of the key people in the business, they've also really developed in the last 12 months. And it's been quite interesting to see how they've had more responsibility and they've really enjoyed making some bigger decisions. So I think you have to give people the opportunity to try and develop. It doesn't suit everybody, actually, and it's worth keeping in mind that not everybody wants to progress and change and develop and so forth. Quite a high percentage of people actually just want to work. They want to get up in the morning, they want to go to their workplace, they want to do a job that they're familiar with, they want to do a good job, they want to be proud of what they do, and then when they go home, they want to know that they've done a good day's work, and their job is as secure as possible. There's a lot of people like that, and businesses need people like that. So although in this company, yes, I've got a good management team, and there's people within the company that I know want to progress, I also know that there's quite a few people that actually just want the reliability and the security of coming to the same job every day. That's not a bad thing at all. It's really not. In fact, I often refer to him, but a good friend of mine, so we go back to when we were school kids in Milton Keynes, a good friend of mine, when he left school, same as me, got to the age of 18, he became a bin man. And he's still a bin man today. So here we are, 30 years later, he's been a bin man for 30 years. And he loves it. He gets up every morning, he does his job as a bin man, and then he goes home. He doesn't want to do anything else. That is what he's found his level, and that is what makes him happy. And I must admit, I sometimes admire him, because I think fair play to you. You found what you want to do. Good on you. So not everybody has to develop.
Yeah. Yeah.
So whatever you want to do, when you find your level, and this applies to every kid out there, when you find your level, when you find something that you enjoy doing and you're happy at that level, actually, maybe that's the secret. Maybe that's what it's all about.
Yeah. That's really important, isn't it? At the end of it, when you look back and if you're happy with what you've done, then nothing else matters.
Yeah, we can't all be.
Yeah.
We can't all be bosses, can we?
Exactly. Yeah.
We've all got to find something that makes us happy. And say, it doesn't matter what level that's at. If you find something that you're happy with, do you know what? That's worth a lot. It really is.
It's an important lesson there. What do you enjoy the most about your job?
I think from a personal point of view, what drives me is what really motivates me is providing security for the people here and my family. I'm a little bit old school like that, a little bit old fashioned. It's not about me. It's about providing, as I say, supporting the people that work with me and my family at home. That when the business is going well, that's what gives me the most satisfaction, knowing that I can support my work colleagues here and my family. The other thing that still motivates me and drives me is that, when I get old and knackered, I'd like people to look back and think, yeah, he did a decent job. He ran a good company. It was successful, touch wood, I hope. So I'd like people to look back in years to come and go, yeah, Duncan did okay. I've never dreamt, and it doesn't drive me, Amos. It's not about having the biggest business or the highest turnover or so forth. That's not important. What matters is people looking at the business and saying, yeah, that's a good business. It looks after its staff. It's supportive. It's giving back to people. It's giving back to the community. That's really important to me.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's old fashioned. I would say that's character, isn't it? You need good character, and that is exactly what that is.
I think so. I think what's important as a leader of a business is you understand what your business is all about. That's so important, because I understand where technical foam services fits in the foam industry. So we're not trying to be the biggest foam company, but I know what we're good at, and I also know what we're not very good at. And believe me, sometimes we make mistakes. So we focus on trying to be the best in our sector in the industry, and that's important. And as you get older, you learn how to concentrate on what you're good at, and you have to accept, and this again applies to youngsters, you're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. So concentrate on your strengths. When you're out there in the workplace, think about your good points, because you will have bad points, but don't worry about that. Nobody's perfect. Concentrate on your good points, and then the people that you're working with and the people that you're working for, they will see your good points. And everybody's got good points. So always remember that. Concentrate on your good points.
Some great advice. Well, I think you've already started to answer the next question, which I was going to ask would be, what advice would you offer to somebody who is young and wanting to go in your industry?
First of all, be prepared to do the basics at a young age. And the best time I had in the industry, I look back, was in my late teens, early 20s, when, I was the lad on the shop floor with the brush, doing all the basics, and I was the butt of all the jokes. But do you know what? If I hadn't done that, if I hadn't had that period of time, I'd have missed something. It really did help me. So be prepared to start at the bottom and give yourself time as well. When you're 17, 18, 19, you're so young, you've got years ahead of you to worry about what your career is going to be. But at that age, give yourself time to learn, enjoy what you're doing, soak it all up like a sponge, because nobody really is. I'm quite unusual. There's not many people at the age of 18 are still doing the same job when they're 50, which is very few people stay in the same sort of industry and career throughout their whole life. So, learn or enjoy what you're doing at a young age, and go for it. Give it 100%, and then keep your eyes open, because as you get older, you'll see stuff that you might want to do, or opportunities will come your way, or you'll meet people. So when you're young, enjoy it. Just look forward.
Look forward. I like that. What are your plans for the future? Looking forward.
Well, the company's doing okay. This year, obviously, with COVID and so forth, it's been a challenging year, but we're coming through it in a reasonable position. Brexit is obviously going to be the next challenge that we face, but going to entail. I have a long-term vision for this company, which I've shared with all the staff. We have a business plan that a couple of years ago, I wrote a 10-year plan. So we're about 2 years into that. And I have a vision of where I think the company could be in about 8 or 9 years' time. And that's where we're trying to get to. We're already well recognized within the industry for what we're good at. So I want us to focus on our strengths. And it's important that to grow a business, it's important that you don't chase turnover. You don't grab business from all over the place. It's important that you focus on what you're good at. So that's going to be our challenge in the short term for the next couple of years, is try and grow the business, but on the back of business that we're good at, and supporting customers we know we can work with. So there is a plan. It's always going to be a challenge, and nowadays businesses can change so quickly. You've got to be prepared. You've got to react when needed. In the old days, and I'm going back 15, 20 years, in the old days, business didn't really change that much. It was quite steady. You could get to the end of the year and you kind of knew roughly what you were going to do the following year. It was all quite safe and secure, but it's not like that nowadays. There's a lot more challenges out there. I suppose that makes it exciting, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah, that's it. And that's where growth comes from as well, isn't it? Through those challenges.
Yeah.
So how can people find out more about you and also your business?
Well, I'm a big advocate of LinkedIn. So we have a company LinkedIn page, Technical Foam Services. I've got my own page as well, Duncan Geddes. So I'm easily found on LinkedIn. And we also invest in our website quite heavily, which is technicalfoamservices.co.uk. So they're the two ways of finding us, the website and LinkedIn.
I've been on your website. It's very snazzy.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, Duncan, I just want to say thank you very much indeed for coming and taking part in this industry insight sessions. And, you know, the key things for me to take there, and I hope our audience can take as well, is focus on what you're good at. Don't focus on the other stuff. Focus on what you're good at. And it doesn't matter where you start. It could be sweeping floors. But who knows, you might end up the managing director of that very company, and you might end up, you know, employing 50 people with a turnover such as Duncan expects to get this year. So, you know, start from humble beginnings, keep working hard, and you never know where you're going to end up. So, Duncan, a huge thank you to you. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks, Amos. And you're absolutely right. Start young, work hard, and enjoy it. That is the most important thing. Enjoy it. And hey, who knows where life is going to take you, but don't get hung up about a specific career at a young age. Just do something, but enjoy it.